Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. I have with us today a filmmaker, and she has a movie right now streaming on Tubi, and it's an anthology called A Hobo with a Trash Can. And she's also just finished up wrapping up a deadly double dose. I have with us today Claire Llewellyn. Claire, welcome to the Horror Room.
Hi, how you doing, Travis? Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. The pleasure is all mine. So tell us a little bit about a hobo with a trash can.
Right, well, this is a few years old now. I think it was released in 2014, 2015. Anyway, up to that point, I'd only really done short films. It's a lot easier, especially starting out. It's a lot less strain on resources, etc. And I'm a very slow writer, so the short form content was just a lot easier all round. But the only problem with that is distribution. What can you really do with a short film? Yeah, I know there's festival circuit. I don't do well with festival circuits. And then what do you do with it afterwards? Put it on YouTube? Or back then, YouTube wasn't that great. And I'm not an influencer type, so it's not like I'm going to get thousands of views on my YouTube channel. So, so I thought, well, I'm not the only one in this predicament. It affects a lot of us indie filmmakers with no budget. So I thought, well, how can I make something out of this and involve other people? So Hobo was born, and the concept was that it started out with a competition actually, but because I suck so badly at marketing, the response was not as excessive or wide as I'd hoped, but that's not a detriment to the people I got because they're fantastic and it worked. But I was just like trying to, in my mind, it was going to be a whole like marketing thing for the project as a whole, and the competition was to for the filmmakers to create a 10-minute short around an item of trash that I sent them. So it was a random item that they would be picked and sent via email, and write your story around this item, and then it was going to be a vote online situation. It didn't work that way, but I got enough people, and we went for it. So I wrote the wraparound, incorporating each of these items into the story as a whole, to make it not one of those anthologies where it's just several independent stories that have no correlation with each other. And that's fine. There are lots of anthologies that are good, that are like that. It's a format that's widely used, and I don't have a problem with it. It's just not what I wanted to do. I wanted it to look and feel like an actual feature film. So the premise is the hobo, as he goes along about his journey and like interacts, picks up these different items of trash. He goes into like some trippy flashback, and it segues into each story. That's why the story is centered on that item. And it was the tagline was supposed to be dollar horror makes you holler. It's like I gave each director a dollar budget and told them what their item was, and said, write your story around this item of trash, be as creative as possible when you have basically no budget. And that was what it was all about. That was the idea. Good idea, just not marketed well, because that's not my bag. But I think it turned out well. It was on. Sorry, turn my phone off. Should know better. Put it on silent. It should. It was out on DVD for a while. We had a screening at the Portage, I believe, big theatre in Chicago that used to do a lot of indie stuff. and tied that into a charity event. We raised some money for homeless shelters and for dog rescue shelters.
That's awesome.
And everybody had fun. People like the movie, and then you always get people who don't care for the movie. It's only your cup of tea if you really like independent, no budget cinema. That's what it is. We're not trying to pretend to be anything different. And because there are so many different, I think was there 8 in total, because there was one tag team, different directors, including myself and Chris. So, and there's 7 segments if you include the wraparound. Or 6, I don't know. So you have like very different styles and different concepts for each of the shorts. And I play a character, Mindy, who appears in the first segment, which I wrote and Chris directed. Christopher Kaler, who's my partner in crime. He plays the hobo. If you know Chris, he's very well suited to that part. He's got a straggly beard and long hair.
he slides right into that.
He often plays a homeless on the TV episodes and series that shoot in Chicago. So. He directed that bit. I directed the wraparound, was obviously I wrote too, and there was the follow through that I appear in. So the hobo is just in the wraparounds. The initial segment called Frying Saucer kind of also ties it all together. Myself and I think Jenny D'Amico is also in the rap and the that segment. So there's some cohesion there. It's a follow through story as well, and it leads up to all the conspiracy of why the hobo is in the situation he's in. It's an alien conspiracy, so there's a blending of genres there. There's a little bit of horror, there's sci-fi, there's comedy, and it's a little different. If you enjoy a toke and you drink, then I'm sure you'll enjoy it a lot more. But
yes, he can definitely. Well, I'm not saying I did do that, but so I do have a question. By being the writer and also being the actress, and is that a little tough? Like, when I'm assuming when you were writing this, were you envisioning yourself as the character, acting out as a character?
In certain instances, yes. I mean, I don't always think that way. Sometimes, instantly, when you're writing a character, you're like, oh, I know someone who would fit this role, and then you kind of almost tailor it to that person. Basically, you know, when you're on a budget, you have to do as many things for yourself as you can. I'm
a lot
also
of hats.
an actress. I don't necessarily have to put myself in the main. I would never shoehorn myself into a role that I didn't think I'd fit. Put it that way. So if it's a lead role, it's not intentional that way that I write around that I have to be the lead. As I know it often appears that way when that does happen, but that's not the way I set out to write a story. Like I say, if I don't fit the role, the character that I really want in a specific role, then I'm not gonna force it, 'cause it's not gonna work for the project.
So a lot of my viewers who are, you know, not for filmmakers or in the indie realm, like, you know, you and I are. So explain the term a no budget film to everyone.
Not so stuck. Can you hear that heat in the background? I can turn it off if it's a distraction. Can you hear it?
No.
No, it's just loud on my end.
Okay.
No
So
budget. No budget is what it sounds like. No budget. You have no. You don't have bazillions of dollars or even thousands of dollars for most of the time to throw into the production. So you're beg, stealing, borrowing whatever resources you need. And it takes a lot. It depends on the script, obviously. Locations, talent, people like to be fed.
yes.
Props, wardrobe. For the most part, on most of these productions, the talent usually provides their own wardrobe unless it's something really specific that they don't have. And then thrift stores. So.
A lot of people confuse, low budget and no budget as the same thing. And there's definitely a difference, and there's a different art and creativity with each. Because for the longest time
low
before,
budget, technically in Hollywood standards, if you look at like SAG contracts, they consider like $500,000 to be low budget.
I heard that, which is whoa. Yeah, but I mean, it's definitely because I've interviewed a lot of filmmakers who do the no budget. Franklin Correa is one. He has an actual Facebook group that actually talks about no budget filmmaking, and there's definitely an art in it. I mean, that filmmakers are able to make excellent pieces of work and masterpieces with hardly no budget at all. Robert Rodriguez is, the one who's definitely famous for it.
If you're creative enough and you're a problem solver, you can make props out of almost anything. Some of these fabricators are absolutely fabulous and can take basically recycled garbage and turn it into a spaceship or whatever they need. So that saves a lot of money. Special effects, everybody knows how to make fake blood, and guts and whatnot. So yeah, you have to be creative and resourceful and use the skills and talent that you have. It helps if you own your own gear, obviously.
It definitely helps.
And use what locations you have, your house, apartment, your mother's, your friend's backyard, sneakily guerrilla shoot in the woods, depending on what state you're in, I guess.
You talk about marketing. When it comes to now, in 2023, with streaming services, especially like Tubi, that allow indie filmmakers to get their work out there in front of millions and millions of people worldwide. I mean, is that something that you feel like is something that definitely a useful tool that filmmakers have now that they didn't? And the second part of the question is, is it also hard to stand out even on Tubi? Like, you still have to do the marketing process, correct?
Yes to both of those parts. Tubi is an awesome platform. I guess their royalties are reasonable and a lot better than Amazon. But
yeah, for
the most part, you still need an aggregator or a distributor to get on that platform, especially now that they were bought out by, was it Fox?
Fox.
So they've gotten bigger and they've gotten better quality content on there. But fortunately for us, they're not like Amazon. They're not going to say, well, we don't want this low budget, no names indie stuff anymore. They're still accepting that and welcoming that. It's a good place to be because our followers and fans and people who may just happen across it, browsing that platform, it doesn't cost them to watch it. So they'll take a chance on something they're not paying for.
Exactly.
And when it comes to marketing, you still need to market. You can have traffic that from the platform or whatever that aren't, didn't know about your film might happen across it. But if they know about it, obviously you'll get more eyes on it than just random strangers going, oh, what's this that's just popped up? Marketing is really important. That's why big budget productions spend like their budget again on production for marketing. Some of these marketing budgets are phenomenal. Marketing is extremely important. Again, it's not something I'm good at. Social media is good for that, I guess. If you have a good presence, a good following, and you're savvy with it and you're popular. But what was the other thing? Yes, it is very hard to stand out from the crowd because everybody who has a camera is a filmmaker now, so everybody's at it, which also makes fundraising platforms oversaturated. So it's very difficult to stand out in the crowd, but it's something you have to try and do somehow,
Yeah. Now, what got you into filmmaking, by the way?
Well, I guess the same old story, like as a lot of people would have. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an actress. Who didn't? And it was the whole, pretending to be someone else was much better than, it was an escape and much better than dealing with the crap of your everyday life, But I was extremely shy back then, and the whole drama class seemed to be more for academic dropouts, and the pretending to be a tree was not my thing. So I decided, what did I decide to do instead? Wood workshop or something like that, something creative. But yeah, I decided to drop drama class, and later on when I ended up leaving high school, I formed my own band because I'd always been into music, and I've always been a writer of sorts. We were taught typical rhyming poetry when I was in primary school, so single digits, and it was a lot of fun. And I kind of used that growing up to, change the lyrics to famous songs, and then basically write your own greeting cards, something you do when you're a kid, when you're in class, crafting and whatnot. And it kind of grew from there. So started writing lyrics as like therapy.
Yeah.
And, I was in the choir and everything, so started a rock band called Stir Crazy in my late teens, and we had a few gigs. Went to.
Were you the singer or?
Pardon?
Were you the singer or did you?
Yeah. I was the front person, vocalist, and I wrote all the lyrics to our original material. We did covers as well. And so then I had a few other bands that didn't go anywhere. That's how I ended up in this country, because I met a guitarist who taught guitar and bass, and we formed our own band, which was called Absinthe Kiss. We had a few gigs over here. Things didn't work out, and I met a few other people and got into another kind of stage performance, being an assistant to a Gothic illusionist, which got me to a lot of horror conventions and meeting, indie filmmakers and people on the horror scene. So that was cool. I got into a couple of indie productions, just starting out in background and whatever, and then joined the background agencies to do background on the big productions, this TV series and whatnot in Chicago, and decided if I was going to be cast in anything, any bigger roles, not necessarily bigger productions, but speaking roles, I might as well try and do it myself. I wasn't new to writing stories. I was trying to write a short story anthology book in my school holidays over the years, but never finished it. But I remember in English class having to stand up and read my essay to the whole group, and they were kind of horrified. It was a horror story. The only thing I remember about it was drinking from a skull and using my puffer jacket as like a parachute or something.
But I'm assuming to be a filmmaker and a writer, you have to have a visual imagination. I mean, your brain has to be going 24/7 with ideas. Am I correct?
Yeah, sometimes it's frustrating. It never shuts off, and it's always in inopportune moments when you come up with an idea, when you're either trying to sleep or in the shower or just working somewhere or doing something where you don't have a notebook or anything with you. So I've had to improvise writing on toilet paper if it was strong enough, or there were empty box of raisins at work. One was like so just to make sure, cause I forget everything, I have to write things down. But yeah, constant stream of ideas. So I've got folders on my computer with at least 20 scripts in, from like just idea stage to like a couple of pages in or breakdown, and it takes me a long time to write because I'm extremely pedantic. I can like sit over a sentence for hours just, and then I'll be on my thesaurus and my dictionary, and it's like, oh. And then you've got the difference between the English and American English, which sometimes can trip me up. It's like, oh God.
So what's that one story that you have sitting on your computer, could be sitting on your tablet, that you've always wanted to put out there, but for whatever reason you haven't yet?
Well, I go back and forth because obviously as soon as you think of an idea, that's the best one because you just thought of it and you're excited about it and you're like, oh yes, this is great, I like where this is going. And then you get to a certain point and you're like, oh, new idea, squirrel, and you're off on the next thing. And so sometimes it's hard to focus. I started writing a comedy horror musical a few years ago, incorporating some of the lyrics I'd had lying around and a couple of songs that actually got recorded, I think. And that was cool. I thought, well, that's going to take a lot of work and a lot of resources to produce a musical. And I was actually talking to Dennis LeCorrier's manager. If you're not familiar with him, he was the lead songwriter and vocalist of a band called Dr. Hook from the 70s, an American band who are extremely popular still in Europe. My dad had most of their albums. They were great and they were so eclectic. And yeah, there's a song of theirs called "Freaking at the Freakers Ball," which today would be extremely non-PC if you read the lyrics. But it's like, I don't care about that. That just it fit this one scene so perfectly, and I thought, oh, if I could have him as like the master of ceremonies, and it's like, oh man, that would be awesome. I guess he was not the lyricist though. That was Charles Silverstein, who famous poet, American poet.
Mm-hmm.
He's dead, obviously, but so it's all about how to go around, getting the rights to, even if you're going to re-record it. So I hadn't got very far with that, and I've actually finished a feature script. I set myself a task to finish one feature script just to prove to myself I could actually do it, because that was like a long task for me, having only done short form content, and I don't like things that drag on or be padded. So I set myself that challenge last year, started it in the winter and finished it this spring, and it's called I'll get this right. It's like Uh,
To the spot.
yeah, the Ripper Legacy. So it's based on Jack the Ripper, but it's set in modern day small town America, and it's basically a family curse from the Ripper.
Really? So I love anything Jack the Ripper, so I would definitely be interested in that. 100%. I mean, it's a fascinating story all around. Now,
And there's a lot of people think they know who done it now, and I don't think there will ever be 100% confirmation on that. They think, oh yeah, okay, these bits and pieces are leading up to it's this person, but then if you can dispute that. And there's DNA that they supposedly found, but the degradation on that and the contamination, it's not 100% proof. As they were saying, it was this Polish immigrant, was in Barber or something, Kaminsky. I don't buy it. And there's other things that have popped up. Oh no, it was so and so. Oh no, it was so and so. It's like too many people keep popping up, and it's some great coincidental evidence. I don't think they'll ever know for sure who
yeah,
did it.
I agree. It's one of those mysteries that's, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and he's good and gone. So yeah, I
Right.
mean, we'll definitely never know. So how many? So how many? I'm just curious. How many ideas do you get on paper a year? Would you say? Like for
Oh,
instance, right now, 2023. How many concepts, ideas have you are you working on? Have thought about?
for films this year, I've probably maybe about five.
5. Okay.
Um, but I'm also a published poet, so I write poetry too. So that's something else that occupies my mind. I have a horror poetry book out, a, another book that's a bit of everything, and I've got several folders of all different, usually horror based poetry compilations, because I like to try and lump them into some kind of theme. I've got more of a children's fairy tale type project, and then I've got more of an adult one. So yeah, so I've got lots of things there that I'd like to release at some point, because it's been a few years since I released a book. And my horror book, the first one I wrote, Love is a Killer, did pretty well, and I'm still selling copies now. So.
So Claire, when do you sleep? When do you sleep?
I don't sleep very well.
Because I mean, a talented individual. I mean, for everything from music to writing to, I mean, filmmaking. I mean, your brain is constantly going. I mean, I would love to like get like, wow, that's a lot going on. And I mean, and you also have another feature coming as a horror comedy, a Deadly Double Dose. I mean, tell us about that.
Well, that was the concept of the completion of that is a little bit like Hobo, in the sense that it's short content married together. I had two short films. The first one was my first film I ever did in 2009, was released in 2011, called Conscience. And that's more of a thriller. It has some dark elements of comedy in it, but it's more a thriller. And that's a nod to Hannibal Lecter. And it's around 35 minutes. So it's a difficult runtime to. It's not a feature. It's a long short. Um, Too long for some categories in film festivals, and a bit long for a real anthology, depending on how many different pieces you want in that anthology. And then a few years later, I had my short called Director's Cut, which is a similar time length, and that is very much a comedy horror. And that was basically my payback on a real charming sleazebag director I worked with on my first lead role vampire film many years ago.
Now, is it hard as a woman filmmaker especially in the horror industry?
It is. I guess it's getting easier. In one respect, it was getting easier a few years ago, I guess, when they were opening the doors more to women. Behind the camera and in a role like director, I feel it's still not considered on a par with the guys, even though, I don't think they're given enough credit really. Like, it was only quite recently, really, that I realised that Catherine Bigelow was the director of Near Dark, a big vampire film. Lance Henriksen, Bill, am I going to Paxton Pullman, which the dead one.
Hmm.
Great film. A lot of people love it. Ida Lupino was one of the first, maybe many years ago, and she did a lot of thriller type content. But you don't, their names are not up there as much as like the John Carpenters, and stuff, which is a shame. It's like, I didn't realize that as watching movies back then. I just watched the movie. I didn't scroll through the credits to say, well, who was behind this, who did this, who did that. It's like, do I like the movie or not? And that was the extent of my interest in the movie.
Yes.
So, and that could be said for a lot of people, really. Nothing wrong with that. It's what it's there for, entertainment. And that was kind of really back in the day when women were very much downplayed, and also there was like no ego involved.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not going to dwell too much more on that topic, but I think you know where I'm coming from with that.
Yeah.
There are more and more women out there, especially in the indie market, in all genres, but horror as well, and they're getting it done. Now I'm going to be shot if I say this, but the whole diversity canon and everything that goes with that, the W word in all this context now,
Hmm.
is actually detrimental to people like me, because in one respect you think, well, it's opening up to women, but I'm a straight white middle-aged woman. I don't check any boxes. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Which pushes it's one step forward, two steps back.
Yeah.
I know, and I'll probably get a lot of backlash for that, but
Hey, it's your honest opinion. Because okay, so and I'm probably gonna get some backlash from what I'm about to say. I agree that the horror community does not take women filmmakers seriously. I agree. I agree that horror watchers do not take horror filmmakers seriously. I agree. But at the same time, I feel like women don't take women horror filmmakers seriously either.
yeah, you're not wrong. Women are a lot more competitive with each other, I would say. I was on a panel that was to do with feminist creators, and I got myself into a little bit of trouble there, because I'm not a feminist, which might sound like a strange thing for a woman to say. In How do I explain this? Women are catty bitches. More
You
often
said
than
it.
not, women
You
will
said
keep
it.
other women down. And women have always have their claws out. It's very difficult to find a team of women who will, go to bat for each other. And you'll see in general societal circles, women tend to have more male friends than they do female friends.
Mm-hmm. True. Why is that?
Mm, because I think women are always hard on themselves. I think that's part of it. we always look at other women. It's like, oh, as in an almost competitive way. It's like, oh, she's younger than me, so she's going to get more roles than me. She's slimmer than me. And yeah, that's a whole different perspective now with the whole like body positivity, fat activist movement. Like, oh, please, which I think is actually harmful to health. Yeah, so you always women always compare themselves to other women, whether it be in body size, type, in physical appearance, in age. It's just something that we can't help, and I'm very guilty of that. I've had all kinds of like emotional, psychological problems, eating disorders growing up, and I still don't particularly like myself. So it's like, and at my age, my physical appearance is not holding up, and I'm expanding width-wise. I'm not happy about that. So maybe my days in front of the camera are numbered. So I better get some skills directing, I guess.
And there are, I mean, there's a lot of movies that I enjoy, horror movies that I enjoy by indie filmmakers, indie women filmmakers, horror filmmakers in general. But one of the complaints I've said several times in my videos is when I'm doing a review or something like that, is that sometimes it only takes me 10 minutes to watch a horror movie, and I'm like, oh, a woman directed this movie. It's like an instant thing, and I'm correct 99.9% of the time, because the first thing I see is it's this overtone that men are toxic, nasty, disgusting. It's just over. The men in the movie no real man acts like the men in these movies. They're either overly emotional, crying, or they're the most toxic person you ever seen in your life. So there's no in between. And yeah, I mean that's the vibe I get when I'm like, oh, I can tell in the first 10 minutes, I'm like, a woman definitely made this movie, because there was one, for an example, that I watched recently this year, and like it was I can't even think of the name of the movie, but the man was pleading his wife or girlfriend to have a baby, and he made the comment, let's go have sex, because I know that you're ovulating right now. And I'm like, whoa, like,
What
oh,
man
a woman.
unless the woman chooses to tell,
I was like, oh, a woman made this movie. It was just instant, because I'm like, no man says that or thinks that or knows that. I don't even think most women know when they're ovulating, but I'm just saying, but no man even thinks that. And I was like, oh, like, so, I mean, and I don't see this in all with women. I mean, I don't say it's all, but there's some, especially indie horror movies that a woman directs. It's something that a man couldn't watch. You know what I mean? If you want to make it an inclusive genre, which horror is, is trying to be, it's not. It's excluding men completely out of the picture, and it excludes a lot of women out of the picture as well.
I think it's the today's society, especially in the younger generations, and especially with women, it's all like super feminist and like rage against the man. And I've seen some real toxic YouTube videos, and I watched some of these. I wouldn't really call them content creators. The channels where they basically they search the internet and TikTok and YouTube for content that people have put up their personal, and they're usually stupid personal videos on their opinion, and they give their opinion on it. But some of them are really interesting, and some of them make you cringe. But people today are horrible. It's like, yeah. I don't get the attitude and opinion of a lot of and it's not necessarily all younger people, just happens to be a lot more younger people than not.
But you see, it's even people our age that are. It's weird because
Yeah,
like
it's very good.
there's no common sense anymore. Like it's not, everything is, it's just delusion and emotion and
You want someone to blame for
yeah, and
everything,
everybody.
not especially anything that they deem like this happened to me and it's not fair. I've got to blame someone. And
Yeah, there's no probably going to get canceled, but everybody's a victim. Everybody's a victim now. Like everybody is running around playing a victim, even if it's bad decisions they make. Oh, well, the reason I made this bad decision is because of X, Y, Z. They don't take accountability for their own bad decisions.
and when it comes to art in any format, whether it be written, whether it be something hung on the wall, whether it's something you watch or something you listen to, I don't think the creator really, whatever, you should value and view the art for what it is and critique it on that, because a lot of people's opinion of something will change depending on who the creator is, with their age, their gender, their orientation, their color, and it doesn't matter, but their opinion will change depending on their personal opinion of who the creator is.
100%.
And it's the same with casting. You cast it, and any job. You go for a job. It shouldn't be, oh, we have to hire someone in this category. So who's qualified for the job? And in a casting, who fits this role? What type of person does it make sense to cast for this character? And ideally, and being equal to all, that is how things should be. And I don't see why they can't see that.
I actually did experiment, and I don't think most of my viewers know I did experiment. So I did 2 videos, and they were literally similar videos, right? But one, my face was not shown in it. It was just all clip art. And one, I was talking in it, and it was pictures. The one with my face not completely in it, and they couldn't see who was talking, got so many more views than the one where they got to see who the narrator was. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I agree. Sometimes, people base their opinion because of who is delivering the message or the piece of art or the work. I mean, it's not fair, but it's the way it is. We all do it. I do it. Everyone does it.
People always prejudge people based on their own personal beliefs, I guess.
Yes. So Claire, where can everyone find you?
On Facebook, on Instagram, and I pop up at events here and there. Yeah, we got off on a tangent, and
I know.
I didn't finish talking about Double Dose, did I?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
I went off here and everywhere.
Double Dose. Let's go back to Double Dose. Oh my goodness. That was a good conversation, though. All right, let's talk about Double Dose.
I think the tangent got off because I was talking about that horrible director.
Yes.
Yeah, so director's cut is aimed at someone I worked with, and the fun thing there is you don't have to, personally know about that project to find the jokes funny. It's funnier if you did, and actually some of the cast did work with me on that film, so we had a blast really taking the piss out of this person, and if they watched it they'd be completely oblivious. And the Happy Dave Haskell, who played the director, he was him to a T. He just played that part so well, and he's so cringy. And he gets his comeuppance. It's kind of like, the careful what you wish for deal. And so those were my two long shorts. And many years later, uh, I feel those movies still stand up. They're still enjoyable to watch. That they're not perfect, especially in Conscience. It was my first movie. I can look back at it and say I would have done this different, and now I know such and such better. But I'm still proud of it. I still think it's decent, and it's it's watchable. So I wanted to give those two a shot at distribution. And since I have a distributor who distributed Hobo, and that's kind of in their vein, what types of content they distribute. That's that's a cert, so it will get it on the standard platforms on Tubi and whatnot. We have DVDs available if you contact me or Chris directly. And so I went about writing a wrap to incorporate the two films. And my concept for that was, as I'm in both of those movies, I would be the diva actress, and I would be introducing both films. And so a friend of mine, Ian Ogden, and his family graciously allowed us to shoot at their wonderful home, and we did a Hollywood premiere party type situation. Kind of old school look, but again set in modern times, because I couldn't. It's too much. It's a lot of hassle to make a period piece any time frame that's not modern, because you have to think, oh, is this correct to the period, and especially with everybody's wardrobe and everything. When everybody's providing their own wardrobe, you can't say, well, no, you have to have a gown that's 1950s. That's not gonna fly. But everybody had tuxes, and the ladies were all nicely dressed in their evening dresses and whatnot. And I went for the look of the 40s diva actress, Gloria Swanson type, with the turban and the cigarette holder.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a shoot within a shoot. So at this party, Chris plays the sponsor, who was like the producer of the movies, and it's his event, and I'm there just to promote the films. And then there's a director character who's shooting my introduction pieces. And there's a spoof commercial I did years ago, which was part of another project that didn't pan out. And it's a fake product commercial. It's a zombification type deal. It got great reviews at the time when we did screen it. It's hilarious.
I'd love to see that.
It shocked my parents. It's like, that's a gateway to porn. What? It's like
I would love to see that one. I would love to see that one.
Not even. But I'm wearing a nightie. Shock. And simulating bedroom scene. But when I was younger and prettier, I didn't have this turkey neck. But so we've got like that interspersing it. We've got the party scenes, and then we've got the I'm being shot doing these introductions, and then there's like a commercial break. So we've got that commercial in there, and also the sponsor Chris plays a joke on me because I'm such a diva pain in the ass, and he gets me to do a product commercial, which is very like slap in the face to my character. He's basically giving me the finger with what he has me do and say in this commercial bit. It's very funny.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it. I'm definitely looking forward. Listen, Claire, we've learned a lot today. we learned that you were a rocker at one point. Was still a little bit of a rocker. Poet, writer, filmmaker, and please, everybody, go on Tubi right now and check out Hobo with a Trash Can and follow Claire on all forms of social media. Claire, it was an absolute pleasure having you on. Please come on
Likewise, thank you.
anytime. Yes, I would love to have you on anytime, and we can go on a rant next time. Yes,
Oh man, I'm sorry about that. I'm gonna be
that was
I'm gonna be
perfect.
rude probably. It's like
That was perfect. That was perfect. See, people come on my show, and I just bring out everything in them. They just get comfortable, and they just like to talk, which is good. Which is good. Which is good. We had a good conversation. Had a good conversation. Everybody.
only I'm gonna be cancelled now and nobody will hire me.
Well, I'm gonna be. Listen, I'm up Shit's Creek with this whole face of horror thing. So I mean, listen, just add another little check to my list. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the horror room. I'm Travis Bruce. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.